The parable of the workers in the vineyard. In Matthew 20, verse 1 to 16, Jesus shares a story about a landowner who hires workers for his vineyard at different times throughout the day. Despite their varying hours, he agrees to pay each worker a denarius. When the day ends, those who were hired last receive the same wage as those who worked all day. Naturally, the early workers grumble, feeling this is unfair. But the landowner reminds them that he's honoring their agreement and asserts his right to be generous. What does this parable mean? Why did Jesus tell it? In the previous chapter, Matthew 19, Jesus confronts a wealthy man, telling him to sell all his possessions and follow him. After witnessing this, Peter asks in Matthew 19, verse 27,
"We have left everything to follow you. What then will there be for us?"
Jesus detects a possible wrong motive in Peter's question, which is why he concludes with the phrase,
"The first shall be last, and the last shall be first."
This message is further amplified by the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Now, let's delve into the parable and understand its spiritual meaning. Key points about the parable. The denarius, or day's wage, does not represent salvation because salvation is by grace, not by works. Nor is the parable about rewards, as we won't all receive the same rewards. The parable instead emphasizes having the right attitude in service. There are two kinds of servants in the parable. 1. Those who wanted a contract to work for a penny a day. 2. Those who did not have a contract and were willing to be paid according to what the boss felt was right. When Peter asked, "What then will there be for us?" Jesus promised that those who sacrificed for his kingdom would receive 100 times what they gave up and would also rule with him. This teaches us not to serve Jesus with an expected reward in mind, nor should we insist on knowing what we will get from God. The parable shows us that had the workers who came first trusted in the Lord to give them what was right, rather than relying on a contract, they might have received more than what was agreed upon. The workers hired at the 11th hour were paid first to demonstrate the boss's generosity to those who were hired earlier. However, instead of rejoicing in this generosity, the early workers grew jealous. The goodness of the boss did not lead them to repentance, as Romans 2 verse 4 suggests it should have, but instead revealed their selfishness. Lessons to take away. God is infinitely gracious and generous, always giving us better than we deserve. It is possible to do God's work without doing His will from our hearts. We should be cautious not to be overconfident about the rewards we expect to receive. Those who consider themselves first might actually be last, while those who see themselves as last might be first. Avoid comparing yourself with others. Beware of criticizing God and feeling left out. Remember, people may see the work and the laborer, but God sees the heart. Thank you for watching.